I think for real estate especially, it's that cyclical part of it, the roller coaster ride when the dips go down and there's no closings and they start to believe that it's, they're not going to be able to do it. How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to get through this? And then they sit in here with me for 20 minutes and then they go back out and then they light the world on fire because we have that shift in mindset.
You're listening to the Real Estate Sessions, and I'm your host, Bill Risser. With nearly 25 years in the real estate business, I love to interview industry leaders, up-and-comers, and really anyone with a story to tell. It's the stories that led my guests to a career in the real estate world that drives me into my 9th year and nearly 400 episodes of the podcast. And now, I hope you enjoy the next journey. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 392 of the Real Estate Sessions podcast. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for telling a friend. This week, we are headed to Pittsburgh, the Steel City, the place where the Pirates and the Steelers and the Penguins all wear black and gold, which is very cool and very unique in the sports world. Now, I have to be really honest, because my teams have not fared well sometimes against those teams. I'm not the biggest fan, but we're going to be talking to a big fan of those sports teams and of the Pittsburgh area. Her name is Dionne Malush. She is a co-owner of Realty One Group, Gold Standard Realty in the Pittsburgh area. Like many guests, real estate wasn't the first thing she did when she entered the workforce. We're going to talk about what she did first, how she got here, and of course, we'll talk a little sports. So let's get this thing started. Dionne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. After that intro, I don't know if I'm the right person. I think you have the wrong one.
I got the absolutely right person. I know it. This is going to be a lot of fun. First of all, you were born and raised in the Pittsburgh area. I don't know if I had another guy who went to Penn State. He went to Penn State. He was a Happy Valley guy. Mm-hmm. I want to find out, first of all, your favorite thing about the area.
Okay.
And then after that, what's the biggest misconception about the Steel City?
Well, that's a tough one. Okay, so let's start with my favorite thing. So
there you go.
I am a huge sports fan in Pittsburgh. And imagine if you live here, you most likely are a sports fan. And I love the Steelers and the Penguins, and I even love the Pirates most days. But I think that they stand for so much of what Pittsburgh is, the grit, the toughness, the wild craziness of all sports in Pittsburgh. And I think it's who we are. And that's what I love about this city is the community that forms around the sports teams. There's none like it in the whole United States. I don't think there's anything bigger than a Steeler fan, Steeler Nation.
Look, I'll agree. Number one, I don't know any other city where all the teams have the same colors. I mean, there's no other city that does that, right?
Yeah, well, the Pirates try to throw in a little bit of red in there, but it's still predominantly black and gold. And yeah, it's pretty cool to have that and have everyone just bleeds black and gold here. And live games, there's nothing like it. And you can feel the energy from afar. So, that's the one thing I do. I mean, I do love a lot of things about Pittsburgh. I've been here my entire 56 years. But for me, the sports, the time of year, the sports teams, when the playoffs, when they are in championship games, it's amazing.
Look, 6 Super Bowls. I'm not sure how many the Penguins have won, but it's multiples.
Yeah.
Pirates have, gone through some slower times, but holy cow, there's some good young players on that team, and Skeens is going to be like unbelievable to watch. You have to admit that.
There's a lot of good. Unfortunately, they don't always pay enough to get the players, but they have players. They have good players. So let's win some games, Pirates. I wish that they would win. It was fun a couple of years ago when there was that one game that could have put them in the playoffs, but they lost. But it was still incredibly magical going to that game.
So Dionne, there's got to be one favorite moment in your Pittsburgh sports history. What would that be?
There's a lot of favorite moments, Bill, to be honest with you. But my all-time favorite is Santonio Holmes in the end zone. Literally, his tippy toes were on the edge of the goal line, and he made it. He got the touchdown. Ben Roethlisberger was freaking out. I was freaking out. Everyone in my life was freaking out. That was one of my favorites. James Harrison running the ball all the way back. Anything Ben Roethlisberger did was the true grit of Pittsburgh is Ben Roethlisberger. He could fight no matter what. His teeth could be knocked out. His nose could be broken, and he's still up there fighting. He represented everything this city is about.
Oh, Dionne. So I was living in Phoenix at the time. And so you're talking about the game against the Cardinals when Harrison ran back a 100-yard fumble return as the
Amazing.
clock expired in the first half.
Amazing.
And then Santonio Holmes caught the ball out of bounds, but they gave it to him anyways,
It was not
because
out of bounds.
Pittsburgh.
It literally was on the edge. It's tippy toes. Seriously. I could see
It was
from
great.
where I was at. It was the greatest. There were so many great football moments of living in Pittsburgh. I mean, you don't get 6 Super Bowls without having great moments.
No, you're absolutely right. Well, that's great. That was a heck of a Super Bowl, probably one of the best games ever. So congratulations. I'll just say that. Let's go to that biggest misconception about the Steel City.
It's hard for me to say that because I always have so much good to say that I can't think like that. Like, I don't think about positive and negative because you can't think of them at the same time. So I try not to think negative. So let me think if I had to think about Pittsburgh. It's like a dirty still town or something like that. Like, I've maybe heard that over the years. And I think, have you ever been downtown Pittsburgh? It's so beautiful. There's amazing buildings that has the most incredible view. It's just, I don't know. I can't think of anything negative. You give me something maybe that you heard, and I'll see if I can give you a comeback to it.
No, I don't really. Look, I had the chance to visit Pittsburgh one time. We were traveling through the kind of eastern United States with our son, getting him up to school in Syracuse, and I was blown away. First of all, I was on a highway that came out of a granite wall over a river.
Yeah.
You probably know the bridge I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That is spectacular. And being a sports fan, seeing the ballpark and the stadium and everything from downtown across the river, you're right. It's fantastic. And I've never been in a city that has such steep walls, because it's down in the river, down in that, like a canyon. Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing place.
Do you know that I think Pittsburgh has more bridges than any other city in the world, including in Italy. So that's pretty cool, the bridge thing. Mount Washington is where you view it. The three rivers coming together. It's just amazing. Yeah. So if you're a boater like I am, boating on the rivers is like living at the ocean. It gives us that same sense of there was something so amazing here to do. And if you take advantage of living in Pittsburgh, you can have one heck of a great life, because I was just on my boat yesterday. It's amazing. And it's just, I don't know, Led Zeppelin did a video many years ago coming up. I think it was through the Liberty tunnels and coming out, and then the view of Pittsburgh when they came through, and it was really cool. So yeah, I do love this city. I haven't moved yet. I mean, I'm definitely thinking about moving south sooner than later, at least half the year. But I love this city and what it stands for.
Yeah, well, that's great. One last question, and we'll get into the important stuff. How big is the Pittsburgh-Philly rivalry? I mean, is it a real thing?
Actually, it's only a real thing when we play games against them. Like, we don't really pay attention to outside of the state. And I have a friend who is a Philly guy, and so it's fun to tease. But overall, I think that, in our division is much greater rivalry than the Philly-Pittsburgh one. Yeah,
that's true, and it kind of doesn't apply in football at all. So yeah, cool. Well, it's great to hear your passion. That's it, and I know that passion doesn't stop in sports, because you're doing some amazing stuff in real estate. Let's talk about that. But first of all, like many in the real estate space, it wasn't what you were thinking about coming out of school. You had a whole different career. Let's talk about that first. What did you do right when you got out of college?
So I went to Art Institute and graduated. And as soon as I got out of art school, I started my own business, and it was amazing. And I loved it. So I created a business doing graphic design work, screen printing, embroidery, promotional products, all of the visual things that I love. And I did good, and then I got a job for a couple of years in between there. So I realized the importance of having health insurance and benefits. And I did the graphic design business on the side of working at a local hospital in their design department. So I learned a lot there, but I also learned that I could, do both. And I think that started me, actually, probably not. There was one point that I had 3 jobs when I was just in high school and getting into art school. So I always was filling my time, making sure that I was working all the time. So then I started the design business. I started working at the hospital. And then I realized after about the 3rd year of doing that, I was just going to go back on my own. I wasn't really meant to be told what to do. And I knew that, but I did like the benefits that having a job for a minute. I had to think through that. And then once I built my business up enough that I could do it, then I actually stepped back into having my own business full time. And then I've never stopped since.
Yeah. And obviously that led to real estate some way, shape, or form. How did you get drawn into the world of real estate?
So I'd always had some interest in real estate. I bought all the Carlton sheets and all of the different things I sold in the middle of the night on TV. And I had a small interest in real estate. But what happened was in my graphic design business, I got into a partnership that went bad. And at that point, I realized that I needed to not have all my eggs in one basket. So I kind of married the industry of real estate and graphic design and stepped out of the gate doing things differently than most agents in the Pittsburgh market. When I first started, agents were using Microsoft Word to create, where I was actually creating houses like a product because I would give it just a different graphic appeal. And I just did things so differently than everyone else. So I came out pretty strong, and I realized in my second year of real estate that I'd made as much as I did in my 17th year of my design business. At that point, I thought, maybe I really need to focus on real estate for a while. So I made the design business after the breakup of the partnership. I made that my second business, and real estate became my full time.
I'm going to say you're still probably doing a ton of design work. I would just imagine it's part of your life.
I still do it every day. In fact, over the weekend, I had this idea. I was going to create this image, and I created it. And I sat there and thought about it. I do love graphic design so much. And the fact is, there's a lot of software out there, a lot of things people can use nowadays, and stuff looks better. I agree. But there's still a skill set that I have and I know, and I'm super fast. I can get things done in a record time. If I wasn't aging and my arm wasn't hurting, I'd be able to do things even faster. But yeah, I do have a pretty good skill.
Well, it's copywriters and graphic design artists. I'm huge fans of both. It's so difficult to do either of those well.
And for me, it's such second nature. When I try to teach our agents, they just sit there and they're like, can you slow down? And I try. So now I'm trying to slow myself down in teaching so that I can help them, use software like Canva, which to me, it's so easy. But to the agents, if they've never used it, especially, they have no idea where to start. So I have to learn how to be a better teacher. And I'm learning all the time because I love to learn.
How big was the leap to become an owner? I mean, you co-own Realty One Group Gold Standard and kind of covers the Pittsburgh area. Let's talk about that.
So originally I started as an owner of a local Northwood office. They were a family-owned company, and I was a percentage owner in that office. And I had an opportunity to join a Keller Williams office and become a partner with one of the top agents in our region. And that didn't work out as planned. So I had met my current partner there, and he decided that he was going to take a look at this franchise model. And he asked me if I was interested. And I said, heck no, I have no desire to own a real estate company. I'm good. I'm actually thinking about moving south. Well, he goes out to the regional office and comes back and says, you please take a look at this. So I said, okay, I'll take a look, but I'm not doing it. And don't you know, I took a look and fell in love with the brand because I love branding and marketing, right? I fell in love with the brand. They were black and gold. What better colors for the city of Pittsburgh? Then they had this disruptor model, which was 100% commission plan, which in Pittsburgh, it's been the same thing for years, like 100 years, the same thing. Some people were still getting 50% commission. So I saw an immediate need. So for that reason, I jumped on the idea of starting a real estate company in Pittsburgh. And I think the disruption was the exciting part for me.
Yeah, Kuba's created a very impressive operation. I got a chance to work closely with them in my time with Rate My Agent. And first of all, have you been to their hub in California? If you want to see
at the beginning when we first started 6 years ago. So it's since changed a lot. So now I haven't been to the new one.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They branding is a big piece of the puzzle. It's great. For you, first of all, you have a lot of agents. And you do a lot of coaching, and you are actually a follower of Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich. And there's an entire coaching program, right, that goes with that. How did that come about for you? And was it before or after real estate?
So actually, when I was 18, I got the book.
Okay. Wow.
When I was 18, but I didn't read it. So I had it in my library for years. And about 2000, I think it was 2006 when the movie The Secret came out. And I was on a vacation with my parents, and I realized that when I got back home that I only had half the money for the next month's bills. But I wanted to do that vacation because it was important. But I was nervous because I thought, how am I going to pay the bills? Ironically, I get back and I watch this movie, The Secret. Since I was a creative person, the visual adaptation of it really hit me harder than reading a book. So I watched The Secret and I realized I can have anything I want. Like, I don't have to live in fear all the time. So that's when I started my journey of personal development. And I focused on Think and Grow Rich for a while, and then I go back and forth. But now I have to say for the last year or so, I've really put a big focus on Napoleon Hill, and I've actually joined the Napoleon Hill Institute to become a coach there. So I'm learning every day 10 times more than I ever knew. And sometimes I think I really don't know anything compared to some of them. And knowing that what you think about, you bring about, and things like you can't think positive and negative at the same time, so you get to choose which one you get to pick. And I've been through a lot in the last 12 months. I lost my dad, which is one of my favorite people on this earth. And it was difficult, but I have to say, if it wasn't for personal development, I'm not sure I'd be where I am today.
Yeah, you're passionate about this, and also passionate about helping others, right? Whether it's inside or outside the industry. While we're talking about this, can you share the most common, I don't know, like a limiting thoughts that that you have to help people with?
I think for real estate especially, it's that cyclical part of it, the roller coaster ride when the dips go down and there's no closings, and they start to believe that it's, they're not going to be able to do it. How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to get through this? And then they sit in here with me for 20 minutes and then they go back out and then they light the world on fire because we have that shift in mindset. So I think just a lot of the limiting beliefs come from, honestly, from sometimes even being in Pittsburgh. There's that mindset here that some people cannot push through. But I hope that our agents know, and I try very hard. If they need that help, I can do that. I also teach a weekly Think and Grow Rich mastermind that I've been doing for 6.5 years. And we go through books and we do kind of like a book study, but then we get back together and we talk about it and we go through it. And honestly, I have seen people's dreams come true in that group, and I've watched them take things off their dream boards and just be super excited about what they're doing. In fact, I just had one yesterday. Someone called me and said, hey, I just got this, and it was on my dream board. And so another thing off my board. So if you surround yourself with me and you take advantage of that, it's great and people love it. But again, there's still some agents that don't in our own company just because they want to do it their way. And, we're not pushing them to do it any other way. If they want help, we're here. So, knowing that I know about mindset and, being amongst people that just truly believe it, it's incredible to watch. I started a self-discipline camp this last 3.5 weeks where we get up at 5:30. We get up 5:15, 5:30. We have a call from 5:30 to 6:30 every morning, and I have to tell you, I can see the difference. I can see the difference in my attitude in my day. You just feel incredibly powerful, and it's helping. And I know this stuff, and I also know one thing that's important is you can't just read it and then just think that that's all you have to do. It's work. You have to work at it, but it's worth it so much. I would just much rather be in this state of mind that I'm in than any other.
Wow. Yeah. Implementation is critical, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. You've had that brokerage now for 6 years, which is awesome. And I always like to ask this question to a broker owner. It's growing and running a brokerage is not easy work. It's hard work. There's always going to be something that's on fire and needs to be worked on. So for others that are thinking about that as an option, or maybe they're just convinced they want to do this, is there some simple advice you have that would help them in the right direction?
Don't do it. It's not as amazing as you think. The model that we have, we give back most of the money to the agents. So we have to have a lot of agents to make this really work to get to the point where we want. Financially, we probably could have stayed in real estate and been crushing it by now, which we were doing that already. Mike and I had a good solid base. And taking on, 200 people and everything that goes with that is a lot. I think it's the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also the most amazing thing I've ever done. So you can't expect it to be easy. We've had agents leave our company and start their own, and I know they can feel that it's not easy anymore. It's different. And so my biggest piece of advice is don't go into it thinking, oh my gosh, everything's going to be amazing, because it's going to be great. but then it's not. But you have to know enough to seek expert counsel and find out the answers and not try to do everything on your own. When we first started, Realty One Group was not the company they are today. And we had to make up a lot of stuff. And that was difficult. And so now they have amazing systems, amazing mentoring, amazing onboarding, amazing coaching. We didn't have that when we first started. So all of that came on our shoulders, and it was hard. So, my biggest piece of advice is don't walk into it with your eyes closed. Make sure your eyes are wide open. Go in knowing there are going to be a lot of challenges, but you can get through them. That's the biggest part of adversity. There's always something of equal benefit in that adversity. You push through, get to the other side, and then amazing things will happen.
Wow, that's a fantastic answer, Dionne. That's great. Would you recommend coaching to that owner? Just as a no-brainer, you have to have someone there?
Oh, absolutely. I've been coached in my 20 years in real estate. I think out of 20 years, 17 years, I've had some type of coach, life coach, mind coach, real estate coach. I haven't had a fitness coach because that's just not my thing, but I've had coaches, and I would recommend anybody be coached. Let's talk back to Ben Roethlisberger. How many coaches does he have? He has a running coach, a throwing coach, a mindset coach, coach after coach after coach. The professional athletes have coaches for a reason.
Yeah.
Why don't professional realtors, professional insurance agents, professional, cars, everyone should have a coach.
I love that. I love that.
It's just, I love it too. I think coaching is great. You have someone to talk to push you through, to help you, give you advice. It's great.
Nice. Well, let me veer off a little bit, and I'm going to go into the weeds a little bit with you on what's happening today in real estate. We had the NAR buyer agent compensation thing sort of, I guess not get resolved, but it got moved down a path towards August 17th. And, the fact that things are going to change, the way compensation works, the way buyer broker and listing brokers work together. How are you preparing for August 17th?
So we've been preparing for months, and we have had meetings every week for months. Realty One has had meetings. Realty One Group Gold Standard has a weekly meeting, and we talk about the first 20 minutes to half an hour. We talk about anything that's come up in the industry. So we're prepared on that part. We're working now on getting some visual things that people can use to help them to show their value as a buyer's agent. Mm-hmm. We're doing that. We are the best thing we have as a company in Pittsburgh is our broker, which I'm not a broker and Mike is not a broker. Our broker is a real estate attorney. So she's able to look at everything a little bit differently and advise us the best way. So we have a lot of experience here, and we use that experience to help the agents. And as the next few weeks go on, we're going to continue to work with them to get them prepared. It's something that's happened. RESPA happened to us in this industry in 20 years, and everyone was freaking out because forms change and things change. You just adjust to it and you learn it. You have to learn, though. You can't just sit there and think you're going to open up the file and fill out the contract and you're going to be like, what is this wording in the contract? I never saw that. Well, if you didn't watch the calls that PAR has or on the weekly trainings that we're having, then you may not understand it. So it's really important that people understand the contracts as they change, what the shift means, and just show value. Be professional, have a great presentation, get out there and understand what you're doing. So I think we're as prepared as anyone. I know there's been some agents that our agents have come across that said they haven't even talked about it in their company. Like, what are you talking about? And that's not going to be Realty One Group Gold Standard.
Nice. Yeah, that's going to lead to a lot of success. It's every time there's something thrown in the way, a barrier put up. It's who can navigate that barrier the best. It's going to actually do very well. So congratulations on being so prepared. We have a couple more questions left before I let you go. I know you've got a lot to do. You've got a podcast going, Shine on Success. First of all, tell me how was it starting up the podcast, and how are you enjoying your conversations? So
starting it happened because I was grieving and I was trying to fill voids in my life. And so to be honest with you, that's why I started it. And all of a sudden I talked to one of my coaches and I said, I think I want to do a podcast. And he said, okay, well, I can help you. Let's get it done in 30 days. So we actually we did it in about 37 days because I gotten sick in the middle of it and had a cold, so I couldn't talk real good. So I couldn't get started. So we started it, and I wanted to make it for entrepreneurs that had adversity and pushed through the other side to have success. And I think it's pretty cool. I like it a lot. I think that it's a lot of work, but my favorite part of the whole thing is the networking that I'm doing in this world. It's not just in Pittsburgh. Like, I'm meeting people from all over the world and then I have a connection with that I think is, as a professional, no matter what industry you're in, if you had a podcast and use that as the reason, it will be well worth it because I'm making incredible connections every day. So I love doing it. It's work. And then I finally got to a point where I hired a VA to help me for the, once it's recorded, to take it to the next level and get everything done. So I don't have to take that time. That's been helpful a lot. So yeah, I really like it. And I'm trying to learn, like my ultimate goal is how do I get more people to watch it and download it. But after talking to several people about this same subject, it's really not about that as much as the impact that I'm having on the people that I'm even recording with. So it's I'm looking at it differently.
Look, I completely agree. It's the connections you make. If I need to reach out and find out something about what's happening in Pittsburgh, I'm going to call you.
Right.
Because we had this conversation and you've got the same thing you're growing is this, it's just this network of people who would happily take your call.
Right. And I love that so much. And I really didn't think about it for a while because I was so worried, like how many people are watching or listening, how many people, and really at the end of the day, if I affect one person every day, I'm succeeding in my goal. This gives me an opportunity to affect many more than just one person. So in 6 months, I've affected a lot of people. I love that. And that's my goal. I want to create positivity in this world, and shine on success means constantly shining your light in a world that's so difficult. Oh my gosh, it couldn't be any more difficult than we're going through as a country right now, the things that are happening. So, I want to bring that light. And this allows me to do it.
That's fantastic. That's one of the best descriptions, just the best recap of why you're doing your podcast. Fantastic. I love that.
Thank you.
Dionne, let me get you going because I can tell you are so busy. It's unbelievable. I have the same question I've asked every guest since 2015 was my first episode, and coming up in a week it'll be my 9th anniversary of the podcast.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
I love that. I'm impressed.
What one piece of advice would you give a new agent just getting started?
So one thing, as a creative person, they say that there's that left brain, right brain thing. I kind of have both sides. Thankfully, I have both sides of it. And I started tracking every piece of business that I had from day one when I started in real estate. I tracked the name, the address, their phone number, and I tracked where the business came from. So I could look at any given year and know exactly what I was doing. So I could look back and say, okay, I got 5 calls from internet marketing and I'm getting my money's worth, right? Or I got none, or I sent out all of these newsletters. So I was able to track it in an Excel spreadsheet. And to me, that was one of the most important things. When companies were looking to attract me to bring them to their company, they would say, tell me about your business. And I would spew out all these numbers and they'd be like, wow. And it was impressive. I also kept track in a book of every deal I ever closed so that I could use that book for marketing. So I had this little black book kind of marketing and of past clients, so I could show that to other people as a great marketing tool. Build a sphere of influence. That was one of the biggest things because I know that you can get probably 10% a year from your sphere of influence if you market it correctly. So if you have 200 people in your group, you can look for 20 deals a year, right? The average agent sells between 10 and 12. In my last 5 years of just being an independent agent before we started the company, I was averaging about 75 to 78 transactions per year by myself. And I had a TC from contract to close. Wow. So there's a lot of teams out there right now that aren't averaging that for an entire team. So I was constantly in touch with my sphere of influence. And in those years, I could track almost every single year was 72% of my business came from my sphere of influence. Wow. So build that sphere of influence. Track everybody. Multi-level marketing, they teach you that memory jogger. We have a memory jogger for our agents. Go in, fill it out, build the database, and work that database.
Fantastic. Dionne, this has been so much fun, and I'm very excited to watch what you're doing. Very excited to get more of your podcast episodes under my belt. I've got 3 down. I got a lot to go because you've been putting them out there, and this is just fantastic. So thank you so much for doing this, and I might be reaching back out to you again, to bring you back on to get you updated maybe in a year or two.
Yeah, I would love that anytime. And if you ever need anything in Pittsburgh, if you come here, I'll take you to get a Permane Brothers sandwich because that's well known in Pittsburgh. French fries and coleslaw and the Italian bread. You'll love it.
I can't wait. Thanks, Dionne.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Sessions. Please head over to ratethispodcast.com/RE sessions to leave a review or a rating and subscribe to the Real Estate Sessions podcast at your favorite podcast listening app.